Imagine standing beneath an enormous stone dome at the heart of Rome during a violent thunderstorm. This is the Pantheon, a marvel of engineering whose massive concrete vault rises without a single interior support. Through the open oculus in the ceiling, rain pours inside. Yet the temple never floods. Water vanishes instantly into ancient channels beneath the floor, channels that have functioned without interruption for 2 millennia. Meanwhile, today's concrete overpasses and bridges begin cracking within 40 to 50 years. We have grown accustomed to thinking of our technologies as the pinnacle of progress, and our ancestors' methods as primitive. But history tells a completely different story. Ancient builders possessed unique, now forgotten knowledge that allowed them to create structures capable of outlasting dozens of empires, multiple climate shifts, and devastating catastrophes. The living concrete of Rome. The remarkable properties of ancient buildings are often discovered by accident. In the mid-20th century, construction workers stumbled upon a fragment of an ancient underground wall and attempted to demolish it with hydraulic hammers. Their machines failed one after another. The metal drill bits simply went dull against the abnormally hard material. Analysis revealed that this ancient concrete had, over 2,000 years, developed a structure surpassing the best grades of modern cement. The secret lay in chemical processes that continue unfolding inside the walls centuries after construction. Scientists long noticed small white lumps of lime in Roman mortar and considered them a sign of poor workmanship. But detailed modern analysis turned this assumption on its head. Those inclusions were left there deliberately. They are precisely what allows the building to heal its own cracks. When a fissure forms, rainwater seeps in, reacts with the undissolved lime, dissolves it into fresh mortar that fills the void, and gradually hardens into new, solid stone. The wall restores its integrity with no human intervention whatsoever. This same philosophy of harnessing nature can be seen in Roman harbor structures along the Italian coast. Ancient piers have stood in salt water for over 2,000 years with no serious deterioration. Scientists discovered that the very seawater corroding ordinary materials was actually strengthening Roman concrete, triggering the growth of rare minerals inside the mixture, making the structure harder with every passing decade. While modern port facilities begin breaking down within 30 years, Roman breakwaters gradually transform into solid natural rock. The builders did not isolate their structures from the environment. They consciously turned salt water into a primary reinforcing agent. Rice porridge and the Great Wall 1,000 kilometers to the east, at the foot of the Great Wall of China, the story takes a remarkable turn. When modern chemists investigated what had bonded those gray bricks together so permanently, the answer left them stunned. Ordinary sticky rice porridge. The same dish served at the imperial breakfast table. Rice contains a starch called amylopectin. Combined with lime, it created the world's first composite building material, an invisible, flexible, and extraordinarily strong internal network within each joint, preventing mortar from becoming brittle. Where ordinary stone would crack under sudden impact, rice-reinforced concrete would flex slightly, absorbing the destructive energy. The discipline surrounding this process was equally remarkable. Legends hold that if an inspector struck a joint with a hammer and found any damage at all, the builders faced severe punishment. The craftsmen worked with ultimate accountability, knowing that precision determined not only the wall's strength, but their entire reputation. Dancing stones of the Inca cross, the ocean to the Andes, and the mystery becomes almost mystical. The walls of Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu feature enormous stone blocks, weighing 100 tons or more, that appear not carved but molded like clay. Their shapes are extraordinarily complex, curved, interlocking, fitted together like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle. Not a knife blade, not even a human hair can be inserted between them. And all of it was achieved without a single gram of cement. Behind what looks like magic lies brilliant physics. The Inca lived in a zone of constant seismic activity. Any structure built with rigid mortar would have been reduced to rubble by the first major earthquake. So they made a different bet entirely, on living masonry. During a tremor, these enormous blocks do not crack. They dance, they vibrate, rise slightly, shift, and absorb the terrifying energy of the earth. When the shaking stops, gravity settles them back into their positions. It is the perfect anti-seismic system, one no earthquake can defeat. Why don't we build this way now? Because we are in too much of a hurry. Ancient masters could spend years fitting a single stone. They worked with organic binding elements of natural origin and did not fight the landscape. They adapted to it. Egypt, India, and the edge of the possible. The Egyptian secret lay in a fanatical devotion to perfect order. The builders of the Great Pyramid understood that if the foundation shifted even by a hair's width, the entire mass would eventually collapse. So they turned the construction platform into a colossal water level, carving channels into bedrock, filling them with water, and using the liquid surface to flatten the ground to mirror smoothness. The pyramids rest on a perfectly level bedrock monolith, with no internal mechanisms to rust or crack. All their power lies in pure mass and the law of gravity, a force working for the builders, not against them. If the pyramids impress through mass, the Kailasa temple at Ellora in India makes you doubt the reality of what you are seeing. This magnificent structure, as tall as a 10-story building and covered with thousands of intricate carved figures, was not assembled from individual blocks. Ancient Indian masters came to a massive basalt cliff and simply began cutting away everything that did not belong, working from the top downward. They removed more than 200,000 tons of some of the hardest basalt on Earth, leaving behind a single seamless monolith without a single joint. Where there are no joints, water has nowhere to seep, and the foundation has nowhere to shift. The temple is part of the planet itself, a living rock shaped into a divine dwelling. Gothic cathedrals, floating on mud picture. Overcast skies, endless rain, and the soft, treacherous mud of European riverbanks. It was here that medieval builders chose to raise their most ambitious structures. Gothic cathedrals rising to the height of 30-story towers and weighing thousands of tons. By every law of logic, they should have sunk into the earth. Instead, they have stood for 800 years. Medieval craftsmen learned to build structures that do not fight soft soil but float upon it. Beneath Chartres Cathedral lies not a simple pit of stones, but an enormous stone cushion, distributing the building's crushing weight across its entire surface area, like a skier on deep snow. Over 8 centuries, it has not settled a single centimeter. The real magic begins above the ground. How do you raise a massive stone vault to enormous heights without iron reinforcement or modern concrete? The answer was the stone skeleton. The famous flying buttresses, those elegant arches extending from the walls to the earth, transferred the primary weight of the roof to external supports, allowing interior walls to be made thin, light, and almost transparent. This is precisely why Gothic cathedrals contain vast windows of stained glass rather than blank, heavy stone. In the hands of these masters, 1,000 tons of rock became weightless lacework floating in the air. Then there was water, the deadliest enemy of any stone structure. Medieval engineers transformed their buildings into enormous water evacuation machines. Every protruding ledge, every famous gargoyle, was a component of a sophisticated drainage system that caught rainwater and hurled it far from the walls through the gaping stone mouths. The buildings were engineered to remain dry inside no matter what storms raged outside. A telling story illustrates the difference in approach. An old stone bridge had survived 600 years and hundreds of floods. When a modern concrete bridge was built beside it, engineers laughed at the ancient relic. Just 50 years later, the modern bridge was crumbling. Its internal steel corroded, its concrete fractured. The old bridge stands undisturbed because the ancient builders had laid each stone so that the flowing current pressed the supports ever more tightly together, rather than eroding them. Why any of this matters today? We live in a world of lasers, computers, and nanotechnology. Why should we care about rice porridge or Roman lime mixing techniques? Because right now humanity faces problems that cannot be solved without these very old secrets. Consider the challenge of building containment structures capable of isolating industrial byproducts for 10,000 years, twice as long as the Egyptian pyramids have stood. Not one type of modern concrete can offer guarantees beyond 50 to 100 years. Our structures fail because the steel skeleton inside corrodes, expands, and literally tears stone apart from within. It is precisely here that scientists turn to the ruins of Roman harbors, those breakwaters that have been washed by salt water for 2 millennia and grow only stronger with time. The secret of permanence, it turns out, is not a formula from a laboratory. It is the ability to wait and to trust nature. The scale of the mystery grows even larger when we raise our eyes toward the sky. For the colonization of the Moon and Mars, shipping materials from Earth would be so costly that each individual brick would be worth its weight in gold. Whose blueprints are being studied in space agencies today? The Romans, once again. Scientists have discovered that lunar and Martian dust is chemically similar to the volcanic ash Roman builders transported from the slopes of Vesuvius. The first lunar bases will most likely be built using ancient technology, mixing local soil with simple additives to create a cosmic concrete, protecting astronauts from radiation and extreme temperatures, in precisely the same way the Pantheon's walls once protected Romans from sun and heavy rain. The past and the future have converged at a single point. We will travel to the stars leaning on the wisdom of people who lived 2,000 years ago. The most important lesson: ancient masters never rushed. In our time, building fast is the norm. Pour the foundation today, raise the walls tomorrow, hand over the structure within a month. Ancient builders could wait decades for a foundation to settle. They tested egg whites, ox blood, and ordinary cheese, observing how each material behaved across seasons and years. For them, a building was not simply a box of stones. It was a living thing that needed to grow and strengthen alongside the world around it. The mystery of ancient architecture was never contained in any single magical ingredient. It was always a convergence of many things: the right location, the careful selection of materials, and the infinite patience of the people doing the work. We are only now beginning to appreciate the true scale of genius possessed by engineers who built eternal cities using nothing more than sand, lime, and water. Every ancient wall that has stood for thousands of years is a reminder that human beings are capable of extraordinary things when they stop rushing. Studying ancient concrete and medieval drainage systems is not a dry exercise in history. It is our opportunity to build a world that will not crumble to dust within 50 years, because stone remembers everything, and it is ready to serve us forever if we learn to speak to it properly.